Johnny Depp's love life has often been filled with headlines, but one story remains quiet and powerful: his relationship with Vanessa Paradis. Away from Hollywood's chaos, Johnny found stability and peace with a French singer and actress. Their bond lasted 14 years, during which they built a family and raised 2 children, Lily Rose and Jack, far from the spotlight. While other romances ended in drama, this chapter of his life was marked by respect and privacy. What really happened between them? And why does this hidden love story still stand out today as one of Johnny's most meaningful relationships? Johnny Depp's life has always been surrounded by cameras, rumors, and drama. But behind the noise, there's one story that remains quiet, powerful, and deeply moving: his hidden love story with Vanessa Paradis. This is not the tale of red carpets or endless scandals. It is the story of 2 people who found peace in each other away from the spotlight. Johnny first met Vanessa in 1998. He was already one of Hollywood's biggest stars, famous for his rebellious spirit and unpredictable choices. She was a French singer, actress, and model, already adored in her own country. When their paths crossed in Paris, something unusual happened. For a man known for chaos, Johnny felt calm. For Vanessa, it was not about fame or money. It was about the person behind the headlines. From that moment, their story began quietly. Unlike other celebrity couples who lived in front of flashing cameras, Johnny and Vanessa chose the opposite path. They built their life far from Hollywood, mostly in France. The world expected scandals, but what they showed instead was stability, respect, and family. Together, they welcomed 2 children, Lily Rose and Jack. Johnny often said that becoming a father changed everything for him. For the first time, he found balance. He was not just an actor or a global star. He was a father, a partner, and a man finally grounded. Vanessa played a big role in that change. She gave him a sense of home, a steady rhythm that Hollywood had never given him. Their love stood out for many reasons. While tabloids waited for fights and drama, Johnny and Vanessa gave them very little to write about. They were private, protective, and focused on each other. Johnny often spoke about how Vanessa saved him, how she helped to become a better man. For years, she was his anchor. But even strong stories face change. After 14 years together, Johnny and Vanessa announced their separation in 2012. Unlike many celebrity breakups, theirs was quiet. No public battles. No ugly words. Just respect. They both agreed that love sometimes transforms into something different, but it never truly disappears. To this day, they remain connected to their children and through the bond they once shared. This hidden chapter of Johnny Depp's life is often overlooked, but fans who look closer can see how important it was. Vanessa Paradis gave him stability, family, and peace at a time when he needed it most. Their story proves that not every great love has to end in drama. Sometimes, the quietest relationships are the ones that leave the deepest mark. So when people ask what shaped Johnny Depp into the man he is today, many will think of the movies, the scandals, or the trials. But the truth is, a large part of the story was written in France, beside Vanessa Paradis, in a life that few really know about. When Johnny Depp and Vanessa Paradis chose each other, they also chose something else: privacy. At a time when Hollywood couples were making headlines every single day, these 2 decided to take a different path. Instead of building their love under the bright lights of Los Angeles, they turned toward peace, quiet, and a family-centered life. Not long after they met in Paris, Johnny made a bold decision. He moved away from Hollywood's chaos and embraced Vanessa's home country, France. For a man who had spent years under constant attention, it was a radical change. In France, there were no paparazzi waiting on every corner, no tabloids trying to capture every fight or smile. There was only space. Space to breathe. Space to love. Space to raise a family. For Johnny, France was not just a change of scenery. It was healing. Vanessa was already rooted there, and together, they built a home that was different from anything Hollywood expected. Life slowed down. Instead of award shows and endless red carpets, they focused on dinners at home, walks through quiet streets, and moments that belonged only to them. Their family grew quickly. In 1999, they welcomed their first child, Lily Rose. Just 3 years later, their son Jack was born. For Johnny, becoming a father was a turning point. He often admitted that before his children, he was drifting, pulled by fame, temptation, and the pressure of Hollywood. But with Lily Rose and Jack, everything changed. Suddenly, he had something more important than movies or money. He had love he could not replace. Johnny often said that the birth of his daughter gave him direction. He described holding her for the first time as the most grounding moment of his life. With Vanessa by his side, he discovered a rhythm that was both ordinary and extraordinary. Nights were no longer about Hollywood parties. They were about bedtime stories, laughter, and the small joys of being a father. Vanessa, too, shaped these choices. She was not drawn to the noise of Hollywood. Instead, she valued the beauty of simplicity. She taught Johnny the joy of living quietly, of protecting what truly mattered. Their children became the center of their world, and every decision, where to live, how to work, what projects to take, was made with family in mind. Raising Lily Rose and Jack in France gave them something priceless, a normal childhood. While many celebrity kids grew up in the public eye, these two were shielded. They went to school like other children, played with friends, and lived without the constant flash of cameras. Johnny and Vanessa worked hard to keep it that way. This stage of their life together showed a side of Johnny Depp that few people expected. The rebellious actor known for his wild roles became a devoted partner and father. He built a life in France not because it was glamorous, but because it was real. And for over a decade, that quiet, family-centered existence became the hidden heart of Johnny Depp's story. In Hollywood, love stories often burn bright, but fade fast. The tabloids thrive on drama, betrayal, and shocking headlines. But Johnny Depp's relationship with Vanessa Paradis was different. It stood out because it was quiet, private, and full of respect. For 14 years, their bond proved that not every love in the spotlight has to be chaotic. What made their relationship so special? First, it was the way they chose to live. Johnny had always been known as Hollywood's rebel, the man who avoided rules, who rejected fame, who walked away from the expected path. Yet with Vanessa, he found something he had never truly known before: peace. She grounded him in ways no one else had. For a man constantly surrounded by noise, Vanessa became his calm. Johnny often spoke about how she saved him. In interviews, he described her as someone who gave him stability when he needed it most. He said that before Vanessa, his life was drifting, but with her, he found direction. She was not dazzled by his fame or wealth. She cared about the man, not the movie star. That simple truth gave Johnny a safe space where he could just be himself. Another reason their love stood out was how they handled fame. While many celebrity couples allowed cameras into their lives, Johnny and Vanessa closed the door. They rarely walked red carpets together. They did not chase attention. Instead, they built a private world where their love could breathe. That decision gave their bond strength. Without constant outside pressure, they were free to focus on what really mattered: their family. Their children, Lily Rose and Jack, became the heart of this love story. Johnny often said that fatherhood was the best thing that ever happened to him, and Vanessa supported him through it all. She gave him a life rooted in everyday moments: school runs, home-cooked meals, and quiet nights. To the world, Johnny was a superstar, but to Vanessa and the children, he was simply Dad. That contrast kept him grounded. It was also about balance. Vanessa had her own career as a singer and actress, but she never chased Hollywood fame. She preferred to work on her own terms, in her own country, without compromising her values. That independence made their relationship stronger. They were two individuals with their own identities, yet they shared the same vision of family and love. Fans noticed this difference. People admired how Johnny changed during those years. He seemed calmer, more settled, more human, and many credited Vanessa for being the reason. Their love was not perfect, but it was authentic. It was built on mutual respect and quiet devotion rather than spectacle. In a world where relationships are often measured by headlines, Johnny and Vanessa's story stood out because it needed none. It was a love lived in private, away from cameras, but powerful enough to shape both of their lives forever. After 14 years together, Johnny Depp and Vanessa Paradis face a moment no couple ever wishes for: the decision to part ways. But unlike many Hollywood breakups, theirs was not filled with public battles or bitter accusations. Instead, it was a separation marked by quiet dignity, respect, and maturity. And that is what makes their story so unique. By 2012, rumors had already begun to swirl. The press speculated endlessly. Some claimed they were fighting. Others whispered about growing distance. But through it all, Johnny and Vanessa stayed silent. They refused to turn their private life into entertainment for the world. That silence was their shield, protecting not only themselves but also their children. When the announcement finally came, it surprised many people. Not because they had separated, but because of how gracefully they handled it. In a world where celebrity splits often make front-page news with anger and scandal, Johnny and Vanessa chose another path. There were no angry interviews, no public blame, no war over money or custody. Just two people accepting that their story had changed. For Johnny, it was important to make one thing clear. Vanessa was not just his former partner. She was the mother of his children. In every interview, he spoke about her with respect. He acknowledged how much she had meant to him and how she would always be a part of his life. Vanessa, too, remained private. She did not speak badly about him. Instead, she focused on protecting their children from the chaos of media attention. Their children, Lily Rose and Jack, were their first priority. Both Johnny and Vanessa made sure that, even though they were no longer together as a couple, they remained united as parents. They shared responsibilities and worked together to keep their kids' lives as normal as possible. This commitment showed the world that, even in separation, love and respect could endure. What makes this separation stand out is not just what happened, but what didn't happen. There were no court battles splashed across tabloids. There were no social media wars or bitter memoirs. Instead, there was maturity. They chose to step away from each other without destroying the bond they had built for over a decade. For Johnny, the years with Vanessa remained some of the most important of his life. He openly admitted that their time together had shaped him, that her influence and their family gave him balance he had never known before. For Vanessa, the relationship was a defining chapter too, one that brought her love, children, and a partner who respected her deeply, even in the end. In Hollywood, separations often become public spectacles. But Johnny Depp and Vanessa Paradis wrote a different script. Theirs was a quiet ending to a meaningful chapter, handled with grace and dignity. And that, perhaps, is why this part of their story continues to stand out. It reminds us all that love can evolve, respect can remain, and sometimes the most powerful goodbyes are the quiet ones. When we think of Johnny Depp, most people picture the Hollywood rebel, the man who played pirates, misfits, and outsiders, the star who lived on the edge of fame, controversy, and chaos. But behind all that, there exists a quieter truth, a truth shaped by a love story that lasted 14 years. A love story with Vanessa Paradis. Even though their romantic journey ended in 2012, the legacy of their bond still lingers in Johnny's life, and the way fans remember them. It was more than a relationship. It was a partnership, a family, and a chapter that transformed both of them forever. The first part of their legacy is family. Together, they raised two children who grew up not in the glare of Hollywood, but in the quiet towns of France. Lily Rose and Jack became the heart of everything they did. To Johnny, being a father was not just another role. It was the most important one. He has often said that his children gave him purpose, that without them, he might have lost himself to the chaos of fame. Vanessa's influence in this is clear. She helped create a home where family came first. Away from flashing cameras, their children lived a life that was, for the most part, normal. School days, quiet dinners, and summers by the French countryside shaped their childhood. That choice, to protect their kids from the storm of celebrity culture, is one of the most powerful parts of Johnny and Vanessa's legacy. And it worked. Today, Lily Rose Depp has stepped into the spotlight on her own terms as an actress and model. Jack, on the other hand, has chosen to live a more private life. Both reflect the balance their parents fought for, the freedom to choose their own paths, not the ones written by tabloids. That freedom is a gift born directly from Johnny and Vanessa's bond. The second part of their legacy is respect. Even after their separation, Johnny has never spoken harshly of Vanessa. In fact, he continues to describe her as one of the most important people in his life. During interviews, he often praises her strength, her grace, and her role as the mother of his children. Vanessa, too, has remained dignified. She never turned their breakup into headlines. She never cashed in on secrets or scandals. Instead, she carried herself with quiet elegance. In an industry where broken relationships often become public wars, Johnny and Vanessa's story stands as an example of maturity. Their legacy is not about how their love ended, but about how it endured in another form. They may no longer be a couple, but they remain connected through respect and family. That is rare. That is powerful. The third part of their legacy is the way Vanessa shaped Johnny himself. Before her, he was drifting. He had fame, money, and talent, but he lacked balance. With Vanessa, he discovered a calmer version of life. He embraced fatherhood, embraced home, and embraced a rhythm that was new to him. Even though their romantic relationship ended, that change stayed with him. Fans often say that Johnny seemed most at peace during his years with Vanessa. The wild edges of his life softened. He smiled more. He spoke of love more. He carried himself not only as an actor, but as a father and partner. That transformation remains one of the quiet legacies of their time together. And then there is the memory, the way people still talk about them today. In a world of fleeting Hollywood romances, Johnny and Vanessa's love story still feels different. It lasted longer than most. It gave the world two children who continue to shine. It ended without scandal. And it left behind a lasting impression that true love does not always need to be loud. Sometimes, the strongest love stories are the ones lived in silence. Even now, fans look back at photos of Johnny and Vanessa together and see something real, not a performance for cameras, but a connection that felt genuine. That legacy, the memory of a love both private and powerful, continues to inspire people who believe in love beyond fame. For Johnny, the bond with Vanessa is more than history. It is a foundation. She was with him during some of the most important years of his life. She gave him children, peace, and a sense of home. Those gifts remain long after the romance ended. That is the true legacy of their bond. So, when we look at Johnny Depp's life today, with all its ups and downs, its controversies and triumphs, we cannot forget the Vanessa chapter. It is not as loud as the headlines. It is not as dramatic as the scandals, but it is one of the most important chapters he ever lived. Because love, even when it changes, leaves marks that never fade. And for Johnny Depp, the love he shared with Vanessa Paradis remains one of the most defining parts of his story. A hidden love, a quiet love, but a love that built a legacy far greater than fame. Johnny Depp's life has been filled with movies, fame, and controversy. Yet, when we look deeper, one of the most meaningful chapters is the one he shared with Vanessa Paradis. Their relationship was not about flashing cameras or dramatic headlines. It was about building a life together, raising two children, and creating memories far away from Hollywood's noise. What makes their story remarkable is not only the love they shared, but the way they let it go. They showed the world that separation doesn't always have to mean bitterness. Respect, dignity, and loyalty carried them through. Even years after parting, their words about each other remain kind, their connection still visible through family and shared values. The legacy of their bond lives on. Lily Rose and Jack are proof of the love that once held them together, and Vanessa's influence continues to be a part of Johnny's identity. For fans, this hidden chapter reminds us that the strongest love stories are often the quietest ones. In the end, Johnny and Vanessa's journey teaches us something simple yet powerful. True love doesn't always need the spotlight. Sometimes, its greatest strength is in the silence it leaves behind.